When I was in the first grade, my parents got divorced, and my new stepdad had 3 children, and his youngest son, who was about 18 at the time, befriended me, and that's when the molestation started. I was six years old when the abuse started, and it went on sporadically until I was 12. When I chose to disclose the abuse was 4 years after it stopped. So the last episode occurred when I was 12, and once I realized from having talked to classmates at junior high that they were doing these sorts of things but with girls, not with other boys, and certainly not with adults, I made an internal promise I would never tell anyone my secret ever.
The first case that we had was involving the older brother of a little boy, and he had watched his stepfather beat him with a belt and then die. That's the first file I opened up, and I remember sitting at my desk crying.
I thought that there was a really high-functioning, well-heeled system in place that took care of these sorts of things and prevented children from being abused. And I mean, I obviously had lived something of a cloistered life to have put all that off onto a government entity or a private entity. So it was a wake-up call for me.
Well, a lot of the professionals that work in this field were seeing kids go through the system and be re-traumatized by being questioned over and over by people who weren't trained to talk to kids about these issues. And so Alice Kitchen at Children's Mercy, she's the director of social work, she was one of the leading people, and Alinda Dennis at the Heart of America United Way felt that there was a better way to handle these cases, and that it in fact was being done in other communities, other states, and that it was time we looked into starting this kind of a center in Kansas City.
The Child Protection Center is a child advocacy center. We're nationally accredited, and it was developed for children when there are allegations of sexual abuse or serious physical abuse, or in cases where a child may have witnessed a homicide. And it's designed as a neutral place where children can come, and there are specially trained interviewers that meet with the children and talk with them about what may or may not have happened.
They have really made a difference in coordinating the family through the process. Because you can imagine how difficult it is for a family to figure out this process. Because what could potentially be going on is there may be a family court case, or maybe a criminal court case. You know, the investigation's going on, a child may need to be referred for a sexual abuse forensic exam at Children's Mercy Hospital. So their victim advocates do an incredible job of trying to early on ensure that those families get hooked up in the right place and answer any questions.
The later in life you intercept the abuse or the ramifications of the abuse, there's a lot of backtracking that has to happen to even figure out what happened and where and how and what were the effects.
The families who come to the Child Protection Center a lot of times are very overwhelmed. They've just had some information told to them or some allegations brought up that have totally changed their life. They're also concerned about what they're going to do next and how they're going to keep their child safe.
When your child has been molested, you're so caught up in getting them taken care of. I think that the Child Protection Center, one thing that I know it brought to me was that I felt I had gotten her to a safe place, that I had gotten her where she was going to be all right, where she was going to get what she needed. And getting her to the right place then allowed me to start dealing with some of those deeper emotions and allowed me to feel.
I think the Child Protection Center, the location in a child-friendly setting and a non-intimidating setting, and the interview being done by an interviewer who has been trained in child development and knows how to talk to kids, that really helps the kids to express what may have happened to them and know that there are adults who are going to take that information and try to help them.
Most importantly, we want to do what's emotionally and psychologically best for the child. And what is emotionally and psychologically best for the child is that they not have to repeat their story over and over and over again to several different people to them that are strangers.
I believe that the interview with the child is vital to the prosecution process. It gives the child a voice in that process. The jury is able to see firsthand what the child said when they were interviewed by an expert, when they were interviewed in a neutral setting, close to the time when their disclosure was made.
When they CPC person establishes her credentials and her experience, it gives them probably more credibility with the jury than one of my investigators has with a jury.
At the end of the day, when we're handling our cases and we see these kids coming in and we know that what we do in many cases is going to make the difference in whether or not they're going to be protected or not, it makes our job easier because it's one less thing that we have to worry about with the interviews. We know that they were done the way they should be.
When I think back to the period of time that I was abused and what happened then thereafter, I wonder, had I been aware of what abuse was as a child, I would have told my parents, and could I have gone someplace where they would have listened, where somebody that I didn't know from the family, because I had learned not to trust people in the family, if they had listened to me and really heard me out, heard my story, gathered the information, told me it was going to be okay. Instead, what I got was, we'll take care of it, thank you for sharing. And then the door was closed, but I was just left to wonder, and I was wondering for pretty much the rest of my life.
When the case is filed and charges are filed, very rarely will a person that's charged with that crime get on probation. They usually are going to do some jail time. And that's satisfying for me, and that helps maybe a little with the victim and the victim's families to see justice and try to get some closure.
Hopefully the greatest benefit is that we are able to see the kids that come through the center and help them express whatever it is that has happened to them, express their story in a way that helps them move on and heal, and then we can refer the child and the family to therapy so that they can move on with their lives and not be continually affected by what's happened.
Even if you help one family, as heart-wrenching as it can be, you're there to give them answers that they don't have. People don't want to know what's going on. It's not something they want to talk about, but we have the answers a lot of times, or we can at least guide them in the right direction. And there's just something that's rewarding about that, as hard as it is.
So many times I have parents say when they leave, thank you so much for what you've done. I've really felt supported here today, and I feel then like we've done an excellent job.
There's a part of healing that happens there, and I don't know where else they would get that from. The CPC offers that really, because they can come in and say, this is what happened. They don't want to always talk to their parents about what happened, but they can come here in an environment that's loving and kind and giving and open, and they feel safe.
For more information on how you can help, please call or visit us online today.